Quarterback, Southern California.
What's up, Bears fans? Welcome back to another edition of the Willis Twin Towers podcast. Ryan Poles has been extended, guys. Kind of out of nowhere. I mean, I don't know if it's a big surprise or anything, but not really anything going on. And all of a sudden, bam, Ryan Poles has been extended. So we'll dig into it. We'll get you guys' thoughts. We'll give you guys our thoughts. Quick reminder before we really dig into everything, guys, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You can find all our content here at Barroom Network. That's either on YouTube or on X. You can find us all on X. I'm at _ Jeff Willis, and my partner here, Tim, is at I'm at _ Jeff Willis. My partner here, Tim, is at Tim Willis 24. And you can find our executive producer, Aldo Gandia. He is at Barroom Network, as I mentioned before. So, again, guys, we'll dig into this stuff. Tim, do you have any first thoughts before we get into everything? And also, real quick, as Aldo has on the screen here, guys, our email address for any thoughts you guys have, any questions you might want us to answer, or anything you want us to discuss on the show, it's WillisTwinTowersPodcast@gmail.com. So go ahead, Tim, with any initial thoughts you have, and then I'll kind of give you my thoughts before we really dig into this thing.
Well, I'll definitely wait a minute because I got quite a long thought on it. So I'll save that for a few minutes from now. But just my quick rundown thoughts are, like you said, a little bit of a surprise. The timing, oddly, on a Friday afternoon at 2:00 Central, 3:00 my time, I believe is what it was. A little strange. Excuse me. Right before the weekend, right before training camp has even started. I'm not surprised that it was done necessarily, but I am surprised in the timing of it. I'll get into all that later. I've got some pretty. I was thinking about this on my drive home today from work, or on my drive back to the lot, my drop lot. I had about an hour of drive time to think about it, and I was thinking about what I was going to say tonight, and I think I've got a pretty good idea of what I want to say. But yeah, I mean, it's like you said, a little surprising timing, but not totally surprised that it was done. It just makes sense. But I do want to, you guys, a little off subject here. I hope you guys had a great 4th of July weekend. If you guys didn't know this, Jeff and I actually were together on the 4th of July weekend. I'm sure most of you know that have followed our show. Jeff and I live over 3,000 miles apart.
Yeah,
Jeff lives
more like 2,500, something like that. Not quite.
Long way, though. Point is, that's a long distance. It's a 2-day drive or a 1-day flight because Jeff lives in California. We met up with our family. My uncle has a property and on Jellystone Campground and Yogi Bear Jellystone Campground up in Plymouth, Indiana, not far from where they live, up in South Bend, Mishawaka area. So it was a nice time we got to spend with our family. We don't get to see them very often. I know I live closer than Jeff does, but I don't get to see them very often either because I live over 3 hours away from most of them. Plus, we got to see some extended family we don't get to see but once or twice a year. So this is a good time. It was relaxing, refreshing. My kids had a great time besides the one mishap and having to take my oldest to the ER. But otherwise, it was a great weekend. It was great spending time with my brother. I know that we give each other a hard time, right? I know we can give each other a hard time always, but it's good to get to see him and hang out with him because I typically don't get to do that. So, but I hope you guys had a well-rested 4th of July weekend and enjoyed your time with your families. And I'm ready for this Bears off season to really kick into full gear because I'm ready for the season. I mean, we just have, I believe it's 12 weeks until the first regular season game, which sounds crazy, but that's where we're at. It's that close. It's coming up soon. So we're just over about a month and a half away from Labor Day weekend and the college football season starting. So It's crazy, but we're almost there, guys and girls. So I'm excited. I'm ready for this to really kick in because it's kind of a downtime for Bears conversation and NFL conversation right now. So been focusing a little more on baseball. I'm sure most of you have been as well, although your Chicago teams suck. But at the same time,
The Cubs are
I
good.
can't say that the Cubs are really good this year. So I can't really say that. But in any case, it's been a fun season. If you guys don't follow baseball, like everybody says the NFC North is the toughest division in football, the NL Central is the toughest division in baseball. We have 4 teams vying for a postseason position right now.
I think you can make an argument for the NL West too. The NL West is damn good also. They got some good teams over there.
They are, and it's like your wild card spots are Brewers, Cardinals, Reds, Giants, Diamondbacks, and I forget the other one, Padres. I mean, you're talking 6 teams from 2 divisions are fighting for the 3 wild card spots. So should be an exciting second half of the season. We'll see what happens there, but at least my team is in the hunt for now. We'll see if that continues. If they're sellers at the deadline, I may drive over to Cincinnati and steal the organization away from the ownership group. But anyway,
nobody likes the Reds anyway. So
shut your mouth. You're an idiot. The first ever professional baseball team.
Well,
first ever.
It doesn't matter. Anyways, let's kind of switch gears here. Let's get into some Bears talk. I know that's what we're all here for, right? So, and I will remind you guys real quick, as we're in the off season, and Tim and I have been doing this for the last few weeks now, or last few episodes, I should say, where we'll spend about 15 or 20 minutes or so at the end of the show. We'll talk about some music or like movies and TV shows, whatever it is that you guys like to get into, but it's mostly been music related. Most of you guys know Tim and I like bands, a lot of bands from back in the day, especially 70s, 80s, 90s bands. We both are drummers. We both fiddle around with some other instruments. I played sax in school. I played a little bit of guitar, not very much, but I guess like a few chords I can strum here and there, I guess. But anyways, like I said, we'll talk about that at the end of the show. So if you guys have any like bands you like to talk about or any musicians you're particularly fond of, we'd love to hear your thoughts on that. We like to also kind of give you guys our thoughts on stuff we haven't heard that you suggest to us. We'll come back on in a couple episodes in the future, and we'll get into like this stuff you guys have mentioned to us and tell you our thoughts on it. So we do like doing that for you guys, and we know that you guys like doing it too. So we're happy to continue to do that in the future as long as the off season is going. So, but let's kind of dig into this, like we said, this Poles contract extension, because it is a pretty interesting timing, as you mentioned, Tim. That's kind of the big deal to me that I see it as. I'm not surprised by it really. And I don't know, and I'll just kind of give my quick opinion on it without really digging into it deeply right off the bat. But I don't dislike the move. I don't think it's a bad move. I think, again, the timing was odd. I don't think it needed to be done right this moment. He has like 2 more years on this deal, but I can see why they did it. You hear a lot of people talking right now. We'll say this multiple times throughout this show is the continuity factor, the having them on the same timeline between GM, head coach, and even quarterback. Now his contract, if they pick up his 5th year, will be 1 less year than the GM and the head coach through 2029, because his will be the 5th year options in 2028. So they'll have 1 year if they're still around at that time and they don't get canned and it's not working out for whatever reason, they'll have an opportunity for another quarterback. That's obviously not the hope and prayer here, but we're that's the reality of the situation now. So I understand the move. I understand the idea behind making this move so the timelines line up and they're on the same wavelength here, because honestly, what's been one of our biggest criticisms of this organization over this last several decades is like they have this tendency to not put their GMs and their head coaches and their quarterbacks on the same timelines, and one will get fired before the other one does, and they'll have another coaching staff that comes in with a quarterback that they didn't draft, and then they won't like the guy, they'll move on, and then they'll draft their guy. They'll get canned before that player sees his career to fruition, and then again, it's the same process over and over and over again. So I do understand it. I really do, and I don't mind it. The record, I totally understand that that argument there. Flex Diggs mentions he's got such a pathetic record. Getting rewarded is almost crazy to believe. the 2 10-game losing streaks under his leadership. Your record is what you are. Him being good is projection. I don't disagree with that, Flex. I will say this. There is a little bit of nuance is not really the word for this, but there is something to say to this because he did take over a team and break it down to the studs and start a rebuilding effort with a head coach that was an utter failure. He did hire the guy. So there's some blame there too. And we'll go over some of the stuff that's going on with Poles because it's not like he doesn't have blemishes on his record because he certainly does. But that being said, where this team is at right now, and Aldo, if you want to put that graphic on the screen of all the players that Poles has brought in himself that are on this roster right now, it's totally overturned. And on paper, it looks pretty good. But again, this is on paper. We have to see what happens. And I tend to agree with you with what your comment said, Flex, with rewarding him with a contract extension was a little bit ahead of the game here because we haven't seen these guys play together yet. But I do understand the process. That's the one thing I do get. But you guys can see here, this is how many players are on this. This is like half a roster here. So he's completely overturned this, and this is the core pieces here. We look at Kyler Gordon was his first draft pick, and then Brisker was his second one. Braxton Jones, Darnell Wright was a first-round right tackle. He drafted in the top 10. Gervon Dexter is a rising, ascending talent. Had 6 sacks as an interior rusher last year. I think he's got a very bright future. Tyreek Stevenson, I think this defense is a better fit for him than he was with Matt Eberflus in that zone coverage defense. I think he has an opportunity to play much better this year. Caleb Williams, that's the big wild card for everybody. What are we going to get from him this year? I think he has an opportunity to seriously improve with this new coaching staff. Roma Dunze, another guy. He had a ton of uncatchable targets last year. If Caleb improves, Roma Dunze improves. In my honest opinion, it's pretty simple in that regard because Rome's a pretty good player. I thought he looked good on tape last year. He had his issues too with some stuff. But again, I think a lot of that was coaching because there was clearly issues with communication and what these guys were supposed to be doing. So moving on to a couple more guys here. Torrey Taylor, a lot of people didn't like where they drafted him at, but there's a chance he's going to be a very high quality punter. Maybe a guy who can potentially turn games around by flipping field position. We'll have to wait and see for that, but he was pretty good in his rookie season. Colston Loveland, first round draft pick, tight end. Guy's got a ton of athletic potential. He's a really good fit for what it seems Ben Johnson likes to do. He reminds a lot of people of Sam Laporta, who is currently one of the better tight ends in the game in Detroit. Luther Burden was the guy who everybody expected to go in the first round. He fell to the second round. Bears couldn't pass on that talent. They took him. It's a guy who I think can be very good run after the catch ability. This is a guy who, again, was expected to go a lot higher. So could he be like a really big piece to this offense in the future? Ozzie Trapillo. Everybody wanted Poles to invest in an offensive lineman. He took one in the second round who has some pretty good traits here. This guy could be the potential left tackle of the future. Again, these are rookies who we don't know what they're going to do. Shamar Turner, same thing, another rookie. But these guys all have potential. On the right side here, we've got veterans here that he's brought in either via trade or free agency. TJ Edwards has been a very good signing so far from what we've seen out of him. Very productive player. Tremaine Edmonds, a little bit of an overpay from what we've seen. Some people would say he's a lot of an overpay. I think this defense is a better fit for him as well. And I think if anybody can unlock the athletic ability and the potential of Tremaine Edmonds, the length, the size, the speed, it's Dennis Allen. So I am going to be really interested to see how he plays as a potential will linebacker now in this defense. DeAndre Swift, a little underwhelming so far, obviously, in his first season with the Bears. I don't know what's going to happen with him. They brought in a couple guys. They brought in a guy in the draft, a Manon guy who obviously will compete for some touches. They've got Roshan Johnson, who I think will be still utilized a lot on third down if he's healthy. And again, Kyle Manon guy is a guy who can get after it, in the pass protection aspect as well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him get some third down action. So we'll see how that kind of shakes up with the running backs. But DeAndre Swift is a bit of a question mark as far as whether he's going to be around or not, and whether that was a good signing or not. Drew Dahlman, he's the guy everybody wanted him to sign, and he went out and got the guy. So, again, you can't really hate on that move. There's not too many people who are going to complain about that. Montez Sweat came in hot right off the bat, 6 sacks in like 7 games or whatever it was that he had with the Bears in his first year. He got hurt last year. He fell off a little bit. Have to wait and see what happens with him, whether or not that was a good move or not. At first, it looked great. Now it doesn't look so much. So, again, time will tell with that one as well. DJ Moore, same thing, same exact thing. Right off the bat in his first year, had a tremendous season, his first year with the Bears, got a contract extension, fell off a little bit last year. His attitude was a part of that to me. So we'll have to wait and see what he looks like now with this new coaching staff, because it seems like they ain't going to put up with that shit. So again, another guy who a lot of microscopes are going to be on him to see what he looks like and if he's a part of this future of this team, because he did just get signed to a contract extension, is making good money. Joe Tooney, all-pro player, just traded for to help solidify this offensive line. Should be the leader of this offense, I would imagine. Should be a captain. This guy, I mean, it's on paper, but he should solidify this offensive line and make them much better. So he's going to improve the guys around him. This core, if they're healthy together and they're playing together for the majority of 17 games, they have that cohesion. They should be a solid starting five, if not a top 10 starting five, as a lot of prognosticators are saying right now. So again, we'll have to wait and see on that. And then the last piece is Jonah Jackson. Again, this is a guy that Ben Johnson must have liked a lot. He played for him before. You don't go and get a guy like that unless Ben Johnson signs off on him, because he didn't have as great of a year last year. So, and King, you make a great point here. All GMs hit and miss. He's had some duds, but I think he's had a few wins too. Now it just has to translate to the field. And we'll go through some of the duds too, because there's a handful of them. One of them that comes to mind right away is Chase Claypool. Terrible hit, swing and miss on that guy. And you know, we probably could have seen that coming by the fact that he's a Steelers wide receiver that they didn't want anymore. So we probably should have seen that one coming, like I said. And, you know, Tim and I watched him play at Notre Dame. He really wasn't all that great at Notre Dame either. He had flashes, much the same as he did in Pittsburgh. But it's just like he was never consistent, and it was probably an attitude thing there too. So, you know, Nate Davis, another great example, King, did not work out at all. Did not have the character that you're looking for. Big swing and a miss on that one. And it makes you question his thought process on bringing a guy like that in. The first guy he tried to bring in his entire tenure was the piece that, you know, was what would make this defense go for Matt Eberflus, that 3 technique, that guy that he needed, the engine that would make it go. Larry Ogunjobi signed him with a 3-year deal. It was like $10.5 million a year, failed his physical, moved on from him, didn't even sign him. Totally didn't work out. I mean, right off the bat, it was almost like a sign that, like, well, maybe Eberflus was not the right decision here. You're trying to go get a guy that he wanted to fit his defense, and it totally backfires right off the bat. So there's quite a few misses here with the moves he's made. And again, we'll get more into that later. But Tim, what do you have to say on top of what I just got into with all these players that he has brought in and have been successful? Because again, I tend to agree with what some of the commenters and some of the fans have said across the like Bears Twitter and whatnot, that, like, you know, this might have been a little jumping the gun here. Not sure that it's necessarily warranted yet, but I do understand why, like the timing aspect of it, putting everybody on the same timetable, having that cohesion.
So I've actually got a lot I would like to rebuttal a little bit here. There's been several comments, and there's been a lot of really good ones here. And I get all thought processes, all sides of this, because I agree. I can see why some people would be upset about this and why others like it. It's just tough because the record does speak for itself, but I'll get into that in just a second. I'm trying to find the one that I first wanted to comment on here. Jay Grizz, I'll start with you. You had said the Bears could have waited until after the season to extend Poles. I'll just say, based on how they've done things thus far, especially how Ryan Poles has done things thus far, which this wasn't a him decision, but I feel like, or it's not just feel, they like to get ahead of these things. They don't wait until after the season's over. They like getting ahead of these things and getting it done ahead of time, make sure these people, their players are locked up if they intend to keep them. So I think this was a similar situation. After the season, they didn't want to wait and try to figure it out then. They wanted it, and the alignment's huge. And I think it was Erica that had said it originally, that alignment is exactly what they're looking for. They want alignment with their coaches. And Ben Johnson preached that when he first came in. He said, the alignment is what made me want to come. That was one of the main factors in him wanting to come to Chicago, was that. So that speaks volumes as far as this goes, in my opinion. There was another comment, and I don't know if I'll be able to find it, but someone had mentioned, I think it was FlexDigs actually, mentioned the record. the 15-36 record as the GM. You can't argue it. I 100% agree and understand that that is a blemish, 100%. However, a win-loss record, in my opinion, is much more on the coach than it is the general manager. The general manager's job is to give the coach talent on. Hang on, I'll finish my point. The point of the general manager is to give the head coach players to work with to be able to win games. Obviously, in the beginning, it was a total teardown. Year 2, you started seeing him add to it and start building a roster. In year 3, we saw a very talented roster, in my opinion. But what it comes down to is he did hire the coach. The coach was obviously a dud. And because you hired a dud coach, the win-loss record has been atrocious. Now, I understand that. And that would be a blemish. I agree. However, I've said it before. I'll say it again many, many times already. I do not believe that Matt Eberflus was Ryan Poles' hire. I believe that he signed off and agreed to it because it was his decision at the end of the day. He was the final say. But I truly believe that this was, like Greg Gabriel has said, this was a Bill Polian guy. Bill Polian told him, this is the guy that you should go with. And by the time that Ryan Poles got into the building, there wasn't a lot of time to interview new coaching candidates, to hire one. Most of the good ones were already gone. And not to mention, you had to start planning for the draft and free agency. Excuse me. There wasn't much time to do all that. So at that point, it's let's go ahead and hire the coach, get a game plan, get the roster figured out, and then we'll go on from there. He's probably not going to be our long-term solution, but this guy will hopefully build us a culture here and work with the guys that we've got and improve their play, which in some cases, yeah, some guys did improve in play, but obviously it was a disaster. Then there was another comment in here. I'll see if I can find it. I think it was Jay Grizz again. I'm probably not going to find it. Regardless, to kind of summarize everything, I understand why some people would question a move. I do. I think the whole 5-year thing, it's a 3-year extension on top of the 2. Any coach, general manager, they're looking for that security. It's going to be 5 years, period. They're not going to give him a 1-year extension to make it a 3-year deal. He's going to want the 3 years, make it 5, even it up with Ben Johnson, obviously. And in my opinion, I believe that Ryan Poles has done I'm going to say a B+ job at assembling a roster. I will say this. The biggest reason I think that he was deserving of this extension, I don't know what the money value is. It doesn't really matter. The reason that I believe this was a good move and not a bad move is the fact that he has built a roster that is prepared for future and continued success. This isn't something that's just going to fall off after 2 or 3 years of dominance. This roster is built to last. He has done a fantastic job of bringing in young talent where you have the salary cap space where you could extend or sign players, or you can cut ties with the guy because you've got another guy in waiting. I think that this is how he has done a fantastic job of getting the roster to that point, which is something we have not seen from the Bears in a very long time. The general managers that we've had in the past before Ryan Poles did not do a very good job of creating sustained success in Chicago. It was a flash in the pan, right? So to me, you have to see how this goes. You've got to give him the time. I feel like the Bears have made bad hires clearly in the past. So it's not really necessarily a good argument from this perspective, but they cut ties with these coaches and general managers after a few years, and it's hard to see if they were able to clean up where they were at the time. You know, when you lose, in this case, 36 games and only win 15, it's very easy to see a team, or the Bears especially, firing the coach and the GM, and then you have to start back at square one. Whereas maybe you take what they've done so far, give the general manager a little more time to see if he can, if it's going in the right direction, if it will trend up. Maybe it doesn't, you know? But at the same time, like this whole revolving door thing, it's got to stop at some point. And I believe that Ryan Poles has given ownership the confidence that that we are trending up. We're not going down. We are trending in the right direction. I'm giving you a roster that is capable of being a perennial playoff team. All I need now is the coach, the right coach that can right this ship and take this thing to the promised land. And now, hopefully, and it appears that we probably have that guy. Ben Johnson is the guy to right this ship. We don't know that yet, but that is the belief that we have. Because unlike the other coaches that this organization has had, you have a different feeling for Ben Johnson, what he has done. It's just, it's refreshing because we've never seen anything like it. And you just, I have a feeling about it. And it's a feeling that I haven't had in the past about a coach. We always have hope. You know, I feel like every year we've got hope for this team and hope for the coaching staff, but this is hope that is joined with confidence. It's hard to explain. Like, I have a confidence about this. It's not just like hope that has no, it's just hope. It's not, there's no belief that this is going to pan out. It's just, I hope it does, but no confidence in it. And yet now I have that confidence in this. I feel really good about it. And, you know, that's a feeling. It doesn't necessarily mean fact, but I know that most of you agree with me that there is something different about this regime and this staff and this management crew. And Kevin Warren being a part of this, like the Bears releasing that he was extended, like we've never heard that before. That's definitely a Kevin Warren thing to get that in the media.
Well, so I got a couple things I want to say. So
go ahead.
Point, because it has something to do with Kevin Warren.
No, I was just going to say that. I was just saying that you can see the difference that is happening, the way this organization is run and the structure with Kevin Warren here. And, you know, for all intents and purposes and all the arguing, all the disagreement we may have about why there's no stadium yet and what's taking so long with that, as far as the structure and the operation and everything, Kevin Warren has turned this team into a much more well-oiled machine than it ever was before. So he's got an A in that regard. I give him a D+, D- maybe in the stadium department because we should have shovels in the ground at this point. But go ahead Jeff, with your point. But I do think that Kevin Warren is very much so responsible for the direction this franchise is going in.
Well, look, I mean, here's a couple points. I'll get into Kevin Warren in a minute because I think that's a big part of this. But I see you guys, a lot of you guys talking about the trenches in here. If I have my biggest gripe about the way that Ryan Poles has assembled this roster is that I think he's done it backwards. He started from the outside and worked his way in instead of starting from the inside and working his way out. And look, you can make the argument all you want for that might have been the best player on the board when they drafted him and blah, 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 blah. But still, like, you've had opportunities several times in the past 4 years to really address the trenches, put investment into the trenches. And there were several times where you passed on that opportunity. And that was kind of an issue for me then, and it kind of is now. I love that he went and got Joe Thuney. Yeah. I love that he signed Drew Dahlman. Yeah. And that they're trying now to really fortify that line. But shit, you just cost your quarterback 68 sacks last year. And a lot of them were on him. But shit, your offensive line didn't play very well either, and they got him sacked a lot. So, at the same time, you have to consider that for every, again, you guys, we've talked a lot about this. For every good move, there have been some bad moves too. So, look, I don't dislike Ryan Poles. I want to make that very clear. I think he's done a lot of good for this team. I think his process, for the most part, has been a very logical and sound process. My issues that I have with him, like I said, I don't like how he started outside in, and I don't like how he has a tendency to get a little, not antsy is not the word, he's impulsive. He can be a little impulsive about moves he makes. I think he jumped the gun going after Chase Claypool. He really wanted to go and get Matthew Judon last year. I think he was a little bit jumping the gun to offer a third-round pick for him last year to try to improve that. I understand why. He wants to improve a defensive line. I get that. But again, he was ready to move up to last year in the draft to go get Roma Dunze, and he fell right into his lap. Sometimes you just got to have a little patience with this stuff, even if you really like a guy. So, again, it's like there have been some bad moves here. There have been several bad moves that didn't work out at all. And were, for lack of a better word, they just were not the right decisions at the time or now. And there were even some ones in the moment where I'm like, well, what are we doing? Why are we doing that? And most of the time, I feel like when instinctually as fans, we think to ourselves, what are we doing? Why are we making this move? Why is that the guy we're going to get? DeAndre Swift is a good one that comes to mind for me, that I couldn't understand why they made that move for him last year. Why re-signing him to an $8 million contract? I just didn't get that. And there are several others also that happen every single year. You were kind of scratching your head like, what? Nate Davis. Why? Who is this guy? He went to college at Charlotte. He was a maybe average starter in Tennessee. Who is this guy? Tennessee's letting him move on, who wasn't already a very good team. They're not keeping a good player. Didn't make sense. So again, our instincts are usually pretty strong with this kind of thing, but there have been good moves. We showed that graphic with the players that are on the roster right now that look like they have pretty good potential. I mean, no, there haven't been any Pro Bowlers yet, but I think there are several guys on here who have very, very strong careers ahead of them. I think Kyler Gordon is on the precipice of being that kind of Pro Bowl, all-pro player. Just got a contract extension. He's going to play under Dennis Allen, who, again, has a way to unlock these guys and their ability levels. And I think he's got a certain skill set, does Kyler Gordon, with his ability to blitz, his athleticism. I think he's going to really be used in a way that's going to be very beneficial to this team and to him. So he's going to be a very good player. I would not be surprised to see several Pro Bowlers in the next few years from this Bears roster of players that Poles brought in. So, and I understand the move. I understand why they did it, the timeline, the alignment. That all makes sense to me. But there is a part of me that does agree with everything you're saying too, Flex, about has he really earned the extension to this point? Because you got to win games. That's at the end of the day, that's what this is about. You got to win. And it hasn't quite happened yet. So is it a matter of were they worried that if they didn't extend him now, that they would have to pay him more? Because that's kind of dumb to me too. Was it a matter of they're worried about if it doesn't go so well, then you got to fire somebody? Again, I don't really get that thought process either. It's I do see why they made the move. Again, the alignment aspect, but I just don't see why now. It doesn't make sense now to me, but that's just my personal opinion on it. And then the Kevin Warren aspect of this whole thing. I think Kevin Warren has had his fingerprints all over this team ever since he walked in the door. And I think it's very clear from some of the stuff we've seen happen just in the last 2 years alone. Firing the head coach in season, firing the offensive coordinator in season. We've seen both the head coach's contract got leaked, and now an extension for the GM got leaked to the media, to National Reporter. The Bears don't do that in the past. They have not done that with their coach and GM contracts. That stuff is usually hush hush, and only people who are really in the know don't, and they still don't really know. They only speculate that kind of stuff. So we have an idea of what it might be, but we never really know, and now we do. So I think he's, like I said, his fingerprints are all over this. They really are. I just think that, and I know I'm kind of rambling here, Vizo, and you're probably upset about me not letting Tim talk. So I'll let Tim get more into his thoughts on this too. But I just think that, again, I don't know if I love the fact that it happened right now. I do understand the idea behind it, like I said, but again, the timing was a little odd to me. You're muted, by the way, Tim.
I think at the end of the day, this is going to be a very divisive decision by the Bears as far as the fan base goes. You're going to have the people who like the move. You're going to have the people that definitely don't like the move, and you're going to have the people who they're not happy, but they're not mad about it. Like it's okay. I think I'm in that okay realm. I don't think it was necessary per se. And I agree that he does need to win games, period. I know it's not on him to win the games, it's on the coach, but at the end of the day, the coach is your hire. You got to make sure that you hire the right coach. And I think he's done that. That's the hope. And that's my belief at this point in time. So I think that that's where it came from. I think that had a lot to do with the extension, is that Ryan Poles hired the number one coaching candidate on the market. It's the first time probably this franchise has ever hired the best candidate on the market at the time. So that was a huge one. And if we're being totally honest, I mean, Ben Johnson has shown that he is the most innovative offensive creating mastermind of the last 3 years, even more so than what Kyle Shanahan has been, more so than what Kevin O'Connell has been, more so than what that goober in Miami has been, Mike McDaniel. Those guys have all been known to be offensive innovators, and Ben Johnson's offense has, at this point in time, been the most innovative of any of them. So hopefully that trend continues in Chicago, and he's able to, maybe he'll do better here even, because he's got his fingerprints all over this, and he's going to be able to tear it down and start over. And you know, he has a quarterback that is far more superior talent than what he had in Detroit with Jared Goff. He was much more cerebral than Caleb Williams is, but from a talent perspective, it's not even close. It's night and day. Caleb Williams is twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1 million times the athlete that Jared Goff will ever be. So if you're able to take that and mold it with some of that cerebral play, because that's the part of the game, in my opinion, and most people's opinion, is what Caleb Williams is missing, is some of that cerebral, which if you're able to combine those two things, holy cow, look out. I'm not going to speculate on what that could become, but I think it sounds pretty good. So, guys, at the end of the day, you know, some of you will not agree with the move, and that's okay. We have to wait and see how this thing plays out. And hopefully,
you know what I've been thinking about today, Tim, is like, because he hasn't had a show since this news happened, is I want to know what Greg thinks about this on his show on Monday. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, Greg Gabriel, former scout for 30 plus years in the NFL, was the scouting director for the Bears for 9 years, has a show here in the bar room on Mondays. Gabriel talks football on Monday mornings, and I'm interested to see what he thinks about the timing of this. If he thought it was appropriate to extend him now, and why he thinks it was appropriate to extend him now. Because again, like I said, I just think it's so interesting. Like with 2 years left on his deal, why do you feel it necessary to do it now? I mean, I understand the reason behind the alignment aspect, why you want them to be aligned, but why right now? Why does it have to be right now? Why can't we see how this is going before that happens? I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me to do it at this moment, but that's just, again, that's my personal opinion. I don't necessarily think he's I don't want to say he hasn't earned it yet, but he really hasn't. I mean, what is again, you are what your record says you are. And I like the way he's done things and how this roster looks right now, but he still hasn't won. And I agree with you, Flex. What was his leverage? I don't think he really had much. I mean, because you can look at the roster and say, yeah, it looks good, but this is on paper. If you look at the results, which this is a results-based business, the Bears have not had much results-based success. So I don't know. Again, it's the timing. The timing was odd to me. I would have liked to see them play some ball first before they made this move, but you know, now they're aligned. They're all together until 2029. We can't bitch and moan and groan about how, that they weren't together and how everybody was fired at different times and whatnot, because these guys are all they're all on the same wavelength now. They're all on the same timeline. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to me to see what Greg says about that on Monday, because like I said, the timing is just it's so odd to me. I just didn't understand why now. But again, why do we understand anything with Bears? The Kevin Warren thing, as I mentioned before, I think it has a lot to do with him. Like, he wanted this to happen. Now he must have been forward thinking with this. Like, I just think it's, for whatever reason, he thought it was smart to get ahead of it. Now, again, I don't know if it has anything to do with money or what the case may be, but I would like to hear some of the thought process behind it. I wonder if they'll have some kind of press conference addressing it. I tend to doubt it, but if he has a chance to address the media before training camp and they ask him about it, I'll be interested to see what he says. But again, we talk about the alignment thing. It's clear as day that Poles and Ben Johnson are aligned philosophically. They must be, because you don't make a move like this unless they are. Yes, Poles is Ben Johnson's boss, but I don't think, if you're Kevin Warren and leadership with the Bears, that you make this extension without knowing that your head coach is on board with this guy he's going to be working with until 2029 at least. So he's got to be a part of it. He really does. And so I understand that process. Like that thought process. I mean, that he's the guy's boss, but again, I don't see this happening without Ben Johnson wanting it to happen. So there's that part of it too. And again, I don't know if you have any more you want to add to that, Tim. We've kind of, at this point, I feel like we're kind of beating a dead horse with it, but do you have any more thoughts on it? Do you guys in the chat have any more thoughts on it before you start to get into your questions and whatnot? And then we'll dig into some music stuff as well. But last thoughts, Tim, before I get into what the chat has to say.
Yeah, just one more thing. And that's that, I've seen some comments in here about player acquisition and things and the failures in Ryan Poles' part there. But, let's face reality. At the time that most of these moves were made for these players, everybody was excited and, he's going to be the one that helps Caleb. Chase Claypool is going to be the next great receiver here. And Keenan Allen's going to be the great security blanket and make Caleb Williams rise in his first year and all of these things. And it's like, at the end of the day, they look good originally, and it's not necessarily Ryan Poles' fault that those things didn't pan out. I think for the Chase Claypool thing, that was just total desperation, trying to get Justin Fields a single weapon because he had zero, and he was getting murdered. So they had to give him something so that he didn't get injured immediately, running around like a madman the whole season. And it just didn't pan out. It was total desperation. They had the extra draft capital. It was way too much draft capital given up with that second round pick. But at the same time, desperate times call for desperate measures, and it just didn't work out. That's just part of it. Sometimes those things happen. The Keenan Allen thing, like, who in their right mind would have guessed that Keenan Allen would have dropped like 50 passes last year? It seemed like I could count at least like anywhere from 8 to 10 balls that he just dropped that were right in his hands.
There was a lot of inaccurate passes from Caleb last year too. But
there was also several that were right on Keenan Allen's hands. A 12-year NFL veteran who's known for having great hands and running great routes. He dropped a lot of passes, and it's like he was supposed to be a security blanket for Caleb Williams, and again, just didn't pan out that way. So I understand where a lot of you guys are coming from with your comments, and I don't disagree with you. And I do think he has had some duds as far as player acquisition has gone, but he's also had a lot of really great moves. It's unfortunately he hasn't had a Pro Bowler yet, but I believe that he's had some players who are worthy of Pro Bowl nods. I think Kyler Gordon being a prime example of that. He's probably deserving of a Pro Bowl nod. So, Jeff, and your questioner, that's the Tape Never Lies Network. That's Phil and Shane, I believe, is the other guy's name on that. They were both barroom guys before they took over. They were barroom guys before they created their own network there. But that's news to me, guys. I'm seeing these comments in here. I had no idea that the TTNL guys moved over to CHGO. I had no idea. This is the first I've seen of that.
I knew the one I heard about was Adam Johns.
Adam Johns. I did hear about Adam Johns. Yes.
I do want to say real quick before we move on, but just one last thing here with the Ryan Poles move. Like, I do want to say, guys, I am optimistic. I don't want what I've said tonight to come across as like, oh my God, it's a terrible move. This is all going to fail and backfire, because I don't like the timing of it, but I am optimistic about this roster, what it looks like, this coaching staff and everything. So I'm hopeful this is going to work out. Again, though, I thought that it didn't make sense to do it right now. But anyways, moving on. Sorry about that, Tim. The one thing else, just to say what you guys are talking about here with these guys, I didn't know that, like Tim said, I didn't know that these guys were supposedly joining forces with CHGO. I saw Adam Johns is joining. He's moving from the Athletic over there. I do like Adam Johns. I like Hogue. I don't want to say I dislike anybody, but I'll just say this. I'm not as fond of some people as I am of others. Greg,
you can say the name, Jeff. Everybody feels the same way about the person that's on your mind. It's okay.
I'm just saying,
literally everyone. Go look at Bear's Twitter. It's all over it.
I'm just going to say, not everybody on that show provides something of value. I'll just say
sustenance.
Anyways, I like I said, I like most of the guys on that show.
Greg's a friend of the show. Greg was a barroom guy before, and he's been on our show.
I just, like I said, I'm not a particularly big fan of. I like some of their content. I'm not the biggest fan of their the way they've handled things over the past several months. Okay, with like the layoffs and whatnot. Like Moriano is an excellent reporter. I didn't like the way they handled that. Just to bring in some more guys now, like I thought that was a little odd. So I'm not a huge fan of that, but I do like a lot of the guys that they have working for them. I just think I don't really care for the process, but I'm not a businessman, so I don't really know why people do.
Brian Herb Howard has been on our show twice now, yes. And he was on I think he was on Greg's show. It was Greg's show like 2 weeks ago. He was also on there. So if you get a chance, go back and look. You'll find Herb has been on our show twice, and like I said, he was on Greg's show, and you should be able to. That's 3 shows that I know of recently that he's been on. But I'll get into this just for a second. I don't really know the TTNL guys. I do know that they were part of the Barroom Network, and I'm sure there's some story and reasoning that they're no longer with us and that they went to their own network. Sure, part of that is just to try to grow their brand. But I will say this: I don't know Phil and Shane personally. I think Shane is pretty level-headed and a composed guy, and I don't hate him. I enjoy for some of the things that he says and does, but I think Phil is completely insufferable. If I'm being totally honest, he's the definition of negative Nancy.
I was saying I must be like oblivious because guys, I don't even know who these guys are. I've never even heard of them.
He acts like his football acumen is like the greatest football acumen ever. Like he is the most incredibly smart football-minded person. That's the vibe that I get from watching their show. He's very arrogant about his knowledge or what he believes is his knowledge. That's my kind of thing. That's my thing with it. Like I said, I don't personally know either one of them. So I don't want to say that I hate either one of them. That's how it comes off to me watching their shows. Actually, my favorite show that I've watched of theirs as of recently, which I don't watch much of their content, but they did have Courtney Cronin on, and it was mostly her talking through the episode. So it was pretty enjoyable for the most part because she gave some good thoughts and opinions, and you didn't hear a lot of that arrogance on that episode. But here's Brian saying it right here too. He's arrogant and shady. That's just the vibe he gives off, I feel like. He's been on, Jeff, if you've watched Adam Rank's show, Phil's been on Adam Rank's show several times. Like I said, I just feel like the vibe that I get is he's a total negative Nancy and incredibly arrogant. That's how he comes off on his podcast. But like I said, I don't know him personally. I don't care for CHGO. I used to watch them pretty frequently early on. I do like Adam Hogue. I do like Greg Braggs. We've had Greg on the show before. I've talked to Greg several times. the way that they have like you had mentioned, the way they handled those layoffs. They've had some really good people. I think what it seems to me is they bit off more than they could chew with what they were doing at the time. They brought in Lance Briggs and Alex Brown, and Alex Brown's not even with them anymore. So I just think like I said, they bit off more than they could chew. They handled it the wrong way. I don't think that their network was as big as they thought it was, and they didn't have the profits that they thought they did where they could afford to have all of these guys. I think they overshot, and now that some good people paid for it at the end of the day. I didn't like that.
I like a lot of the guys that they have, like a lot of their employees. I think they do a good job. I kind of felt like and this is just me speculating, it almost feels like they kind of used some of the guys they had in the past to grow their brand. Then when they got a little bit bigger, they brought in some guys that they thought were bigger and better, and they just moved on from the guys that they had. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it. I did the way they did it. But like I said, I do like the people they have on there. They do a good job. And I do watch some of their content. I think they put out some good content out there. Obviously, I don't have time to watch everything all the time, but I do like their people. And look, King, that is the what's the word I'm looking for? That is today in essence. Keyboard cowboys. They wouldn't say shit in person. That is everybody. Look how many people hide behind Twitter profiles with no Facebook or not Facebook, no profile picture. It's like these guys, they won't even put a name to their face, let alone like stand in front of somebody and say something. It's like, it's just funny to me. There's so much about that, so much of that stuff going on these days because the internet is it's such an avenue for people to do that. It is kind of funny to me, but it is what it is in this day and age. I mean, what are you really going to do about it? You can either sit there and have an argument with somebody with the keyboard or whatever. You can just understand and move on that they're ignorant, from that kind of thing. So, what the
only other thing I would say to is I like I said, I didn't know about the move, but Greg Braggs is the one that does that After Dark show. And obviously there's a connection there from the barroom days. I'm sure they're friends. And that was probably a Greg Braggs thing, bringing those guys in. But I will say, I do want to shout out Greg Braggs because that is the ultimate story of a guy who, if you guys don't know the story, he was a bricklayer for a long time. Doesn't even live in Chicago. Lives in
somewhere
northwest. Lives in Crown Point. Yeah, I'm sorry. He lives in Crown Point, Indiana, which is like 45 minutes away from Chicago. The guy spent his time doing his own podcasting, was on the Barroom Network, just like us. And he just grew and grew and grew his brand to the point where he got somebody, the CHGO guys liked him. They brought him in, and the guy is living the dream now over there. That's, this is what he's always wanted to do. And he's done really well for himself. And I think everybody likes Greg for the most part because he's just like one of us. He's a fan who is incredibly passionate about his team, and he's made it to the top. So I'm laughing at Mr. Shorty's comment here. Sign me up.
Or TTNL, sign me up.
I feel like everybody here.
I don't know the guys, so don't put me
I don't either, but like I said, that's what I've gathered from them just from watching what little I have. And apparently, we definitely stirred the pot here because there's no love in this chat room for the TTNL guys.
That's hilarious to me. And look, if you guys don't like him, I don't know these guys, but there's probably a good chance I wouldn't like him either. So I don't even know I'm not looking at this at all.
This is our chat. We love you guys, and whoever you don't love, we hate them too. we got your back, chat.
Loyalty, baby. Well, King Book World has a comment here that's making me laugh. We were talking about people that don't have with Twitter profiles that don't have their profile pics and they talk shit and everything. He said people act like that because they haven't had their fronts rearranged. And that's pretty much true. Anybody who gets their ass whooped probably ain't talking like that too much anymore. But that's a great song, by the way. Rearranged, Limp Bizkit. I got that in a playlist right now. I was just listening to that yesterday. What a phenomenal song. Good little groove at the beginning of that too. You guys like Limp Bizkit, by the way? We'll dig into some music in a minute, but I think we got a couple questions Bears related before we move on to that. But I do want to know you guys' thoughts on Limp Bizkit too, because I think they're the shit. They're a really underrated band in my opinion.
Chocolate Starfish.
My Way, yeah, that's My Way is a great song, man.
That's the beginning of rolling.
Isn't chocolate starfish? That's
Chocolate
album,
starfish
right?
in the hot dog flavored water.
Yeah. But anyways, let's get to some of these questions before we move on to that. Where are we at here? Let's see. I'm losing my spot here. Wondering what we think of all the free agent signings if we have them rated. I don't necessarily have them rated. Aldo, can you put that graphic back on the screen where we had the ones that are still on the team right now? Obviously, several of them didn't work out. The Nate Davis one was a big, obviously massive F. So if you want a rating on that one, it's clear. Some of these will remain to be seen. TJ Edwards, I would give it. I think that was a good one. That was a good move getting him. He's
been an A-. He's been an A-.
B+ at the least. I mean, he's been re-signed because he's been a good enough player to be brought back. He's on a bargain contract with his hometown team. He's been a really good player. Jermaine Edmonds a little bit overpaid, so that one I could see it. The criticism towards that move. We'll have to. Like I said before at the beginning of the show, though, I want to see what he does with Dennis Allen. I think Dennis Allen can unlock this guy, and I'm interested to see how that works. DeAndre Swift, I don't think he's going to be here past this year. We'll have to wait and see with that one. Not a great move in my opinion. I question that from the jump. I don't think he's a bad player. I just don't think $8 million for his skill set is viable. And Drew Dahlman, this is a wait to see one, but this is what guy everybody wanted. So I like that move. I really like that move. I think everybody did. So I don't know if I want to necessarily give it a rating, but the guys that he's brought in there on the team right now, I think there's high hopes for the most part for these guys. I think it'll be interesting to see how like some of the trades they've made, like Jonah Jackson works out, how Montez Sweat plays this year, coming off, being banged up last year a little bit. But like I said before, there's a lot of optimism around this team. I think there's a lot of hope around this team and how they're going to look. So, I liked it. I liked most of them. I think it's kind of waiting to see mode with some of these guys. I don't know if any of them are flat out failures. Even Swift, and I don't even know if he's a flat out failure. You're just not getting out of him $8 million worth of play. That's for damn sure. So, yeah, that's just kind of you have any last second thoughts on that, Tim, before I move on here? I think we're out of Bears questions.
I don't most of these, obviously all the signings and trades from this year are wait and see thing. I mean, you can make the argument for like guys like Tooney who have had a career of stellar play, but I don't want to jinx anything, but this is the Bears. And sometimes things don't work out with players regardless of their career. But I hope, and I think this is a little different of a situation, especially with Joe Tooney, who is not showing any signs of aging in his play. So it's all wait and see this year, though. As far as the free agent signings in the past, I mean, I wouldn't say that any of them have really been failures recently. I mean, obviously the Nate Davis thing was a total disaster, but that was a guy who got his money and ran. But Edmonds hasn't been a bad player. He's been a good player. I think he's been misused. Was a lot of it. I've told you guys many times over the past several months and all of last season that I just feel like he doesn't finish well enough, and maybe that will change. Maybe he gets moved to the will and it totally changes the offense or the defense. But TJ Edwards has been very good for this team. I mean, the free agency signings have, for the most part, been pretty good. They have not been terrible moves by any stretch, with the exception, like we said, of Nate Davis. So wait and see. That's where I'm at right now, is just wait and see. Are we on our last question here?
I think we're out of questions. There's one more music.
Yeah,
question.
Brian asks if we have any love for Slash and Axel. Absolutely love me some Slash. Absolutely not like me some Axel. Not a big Axel Rose fan. We had this conversation on the show a few weeks back. I think Axel his voice fit for what Guns N' Roses did, but I feel like if they had a better singer, they would have been a much, much more explosive and powerful band than what they were. And they were very, very popular, but I feel like a better singer takes them way over the top. And Slash is the man. No question. Slash is the freaking man. No doubt about it. I do love some Slash.
I see you guys. I like Slash too, for sure. Slash is a great guitar player. I like Axl though too. I think he's got a very unique voice. and they're very fit. I mean, Guns N' Roses is a great band. They got a lot of good hits. I mean,
they do.
Good
Absolutely.
shit. Cliff, I see you talking about Leonard Skinner. I've mentioned Leonard Skinner before on this show many times. I love Skinner. You asking about Tuesday's Gone, one of the best songs of all time. You say
that is one of the best songs. That's probably my favorite song of there.
Happy Gilmore every time I hear it. The beginning
it
of Happy
does.
Gilmore is what it makes me think of.
Yep, it's probably my favorite or my favorite song of theirs. Probably.
It's not mine. I like it a lot. It's what Freebird has got to be my favorite. I mean, it's just that guitar solo. I mean, just the
most overplayed song in the history of music, though.
It's
so
what?
Well, the most overplayed song in music history.
Maybe, but I mean, it's just such the transitions in, like I said, the guitar solo, how it moves from the words, the lyrics are phenomenal. Alan Collins just absolutely destroys that guitar solo. It totally shreds it. There's some live versions of that song played by the band on YouTube. If you guys haven't seen them, you should check them out because you can just watching them play is awesome. Like I said, Alan Collins just absolutely destroys that guitar solo. And Gary Rossington obviously plays that slide guitar part at the beginning. It's really cool. Freebird, like I said, it's got to be their best. But I love a lot of their music. That Smell is one of my favorites.
That Smell is a good one.
Give Me 3 Steps, one of my favorites.
Give Me 3 Steps. I see those. I like those a lot better than I like Freebird. The solo in Freebird is amazing, but
Simple Man, yes.
Unpopular opinion, probably for some people, Shinedown's version of Simple Man blows Leonard Skinner's original out of the water. Yes, it does. Not,
but it's good.
Blows it out of the water. But I'm a huge Shinedown fan, and I love them. For sure.
That's
I love
fair.
Brent
Smith.
He's amazing.
Fine, but I don't see that. I think Leonard Skinner's version is just like one of the greatest. I mean, you can probably call it a ballad. It's probably one of the greatest ballads of all time. I love that song. That song is really, it's just, I don't know how to explain it. It just kind of takes you somewhere, and like as a man, especially, like you really relate to it, for a lot of us anyways. It's just,
that was my mother's son dance at my wedding. My mom and I danced to that.
Great song.
The Shinedown version.
You guys, that's just one of my favorites. I know I'm forgetting a bunch of their good stuff too. But by the way, did you guys know there's a I think it's on Netflix. There was a documentary about Leonard Skinner. I don't think it's called Tuesday's Gone, is it? You guys know what I'm talking about? I think it was on Netflix. There's a documentary about Leonard Skinner, and it talks about Gary Rossington was on there giving interviews. Ed King is on there giving interviews. And they just kind of talk about their background, like the plane crash, how they came together, and different things of that nature, like how they came up with music together and all that. And it's a really, really good documentary. And if you guys didn't know, Ed King, who came to the band, he wasn't an original member. I don't know how he met him, but he basically talked to him one time or another from meeting him in the past. Hey, I really like what you guys do. If you're ever looking for another bass player, another guitar player, give me a call, So he had been with a band called Strawberry Alarm Clock. If you guys aren't familiar, they had the big hit called Incense and Peppermints in the 60s. Well, Ed King left them, or they broke up, whatever the case may be. And then he ends up with Leonard Skinner, and he's the one who came up with the guitar part for Sweet Home Alabama. So what happened was they were all getting together for practice one morning, and he says he walks in, and Alan Collins is in there playing this little, just slow couple, it's like an arpeggio kind of thing he's doing, like do, 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 do kind of thing. And he's like, well, what do you think about this? And he starts going, do, 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 do. And they're like, oh my God, I love it. And apparently when he starts doing that, Ronnie Van Zant starts going like this. And he says in the documentary, when Ronnie Van Zant's doing this, it means keep going. I'm going to start coming up with lyrics right now. And so here he goes. As soon as they start doing it, he starts coming, big wheels, keep on turning. And then from there, it just goes. So I thought that was a really cool inside look to that also. And Ed King is another really, really good guitar player who is not well known. Ended up leaving the band because Ronnie Van Zant held a knife to his neck. But I thought that was kind of funny too. And there's a funny comment from you also in here, Flex, about my shirt, Pole's favorite song being Money for Nothing. By the way, that guitar riff is one of the sexiest, coolest, most iconic guitar riffs in history. Tim, you're muted, so I don't know what you're having to say about it.
Sorry. I was just going to say, we don't talk about him enough, but Mark Knopfler is the freaking man.
Yeah. So good. So good. And I love My Dire Straits. That song's a great song. Sultans of Swing, obviously a great song.
The intro, the guitar intro to Sultans of Swing is just
beautiful.
It gives you that swing with the rock and roll. It's just, oh my gosh, it's such a cool feel.
Makes me feel like I'm making rock music in Saudi Arabia or something. It's fucking fantastic. But it's just, it's just so different than anything else you hear. Everybody likes Stairway to Heaven, Jay Grizz. I mean, how can you not? To me, it's the most iconic song of all time, maybe the greatest song of all time. Cliff mentioned Sultans of Swing. Walk of Life is another song by Dire Straits. Great song. A little different from their other stuff.
Very different.
I like it a lot. So, yeah, I agree with you guys about a lot. I love how you guys bring this stuff up all the time. Such good shit. But I really want you guys to check out that documentary from Leonard Skinner if you haven't. I want to say it's called Tuesday's Gone, but I for some reason, I don't think that's what it is, but I'm 99% sure it's on Netflix. So check it out if you haven't. And let's see what else we got in here. Yeah, Cliff, I tend to agree with you. It's a great song. It is overplayed, but a lot of the great hits like that were. But just the music behind it is just, I mean, it's unbelievable. It really is. It's unbelievable. Greg Newman, you're mentioning here, King. I need to do some research on that. I'm familiar with the name. I don't know if I know exactly what about his catalog. You mentioned Ghost Nation. I will check that out. I'm gonna write that down after the show. Greg Newman, Ghost Nation. He says it's fucking great. So the stuff you put me onto in the past, King, I've liked. So I'll definitely look into that and see what I get from it. And I'll let you know next time we're on. But we're out of time here, guys. And there's one more question from J2K wanting to know if we've heard What It Is by Mark Knopfler. I have not heard it. Didn't know it was a solo record either. It's another one I will look up and I'll let you know what I think about it. Like Tim said, Mark Knopfler is such an underrated guitar player. Guy is just absolutely fantastic. Can play just about whatever he wants. It's an iconic sound. So I will definitely check that out as well. I do know the song Drops from Jupiter by Train. Jay Grizz, that's a good song. A little slow for me.
I hate Train. I'm sorry, Jay Grizz, but I hate them.
I know the song. I like the song.
I've never liked them.
No, but it's a decent song. Yeah, it's a hit. I mean, a lot of people like it. So it's just not really my cup of tea per se, but I do like it. But like I said, guys, we're out of time here. We're kind of going a little over. I'm sure we'll have more time next week to talk about music some more. We obviously had a lot of Bears talk, a lot of great Bears discussion tonight. We appreciate you guys as always. So like I said, quick reminder, we have an email address. If you guys have questions, you have music you want me to get into or Tim to get into, bands you like, any kind of suggestions for us to discuss in the show and whatnot, the email address is willistwintowerspodcast@gmail.com right here on the bottom of the screen. Thank you, Aldo. Again, that's willistwintowerspodcast@gmail.com. We will get into that, give you guys our thoughts on what you have to say. Tim, what's your thought before I give the last address here?
Well, there's a couple of comments. One, Jay Grizz asked about Papa Roach. Jay Grizz, I've never been a massive Papa Roach fan. I have liked some of their songs. I was especially upset when they kind of went mainstream when Scars came out. But their new album is so freaking good. What's the song? It's been I've had playing constantly, like every day I listen to what is it called? I wish Riker was in here with me right now because even if it kills me, so freaking good. It's an awesome song. And I love Jacoby Shaddix. Like his voice is so good. But
Last
I did not.
Resort, by the way, speaking of Papa Roach, Last Resort was like one of my high school wrestling room. That was one of our
everybody
all the time. It's a great song.
I think that's everybody. Everybody felt that way about that song.
What a jam. Anyways, there's a couple more comments here. Are pretty funny. I want to address real fast. Mr. Shorty wants to know when Tim turned into Freddie Mercury. That's really funny.
Uncle.
You say that, Mr. Shorty.
He's my uncle.
Tim and I have this running joke that our dad looks.
It's not a joke.
Our dad was adopted, so it's a joke, but it's supposed to be like kind of maybe possible kind of thing, which it's really not. But there's a joke that our dad, because he looks so much like these guys, that he's brothers of Freddie Mercury and John Oates because they all look so much alike that like we do. It's like, just like I said, it's a running joke that they're brothers and like he's our uncle and stuff. It's pretty fucking funny. But anyways, Tim does look like him right now. He really does look like Freddie Mercury. Friday by Rebecca Black. I'll have to check that out also, Aldo. I'll let you know what I think. Future show, he says Black Eyed Peas or Billie Eilish. I'll just answer that right now. Black Eyed Peas.
Black Eyed Peas, 100%.
They got some great shit.
They do have some good stuff.
Yeah, I honestly can't believe younger generation bringing back the mustache either, Mr.
We are not part of the younger generation, though.
When I was young, I remember people thinking that was very like pedophile-like to have a mustache. Now all of a sudden everybody wants to have a mustache. Yep. I don't get it, but I will check out Rebecca Black unless you. Well, King says don't check her out. I don't know why. You must not like her for whatever reason. It's pretty funny. Radio Gaga. I'll have to look into that. Unless it's already you're just quoting the song in there, I'm not sure. But anyways, like I said, we're out of time, guys. We had a great show tonight. We really appreciate you guys being in here and giving us your suggestions with your comments. You drive the Bears conversation, you drive the music conversation. We just love that, and we really appreciate, like I said, you guys always being here and talking things out with us, and we love giving you our take on it as well. So just a quick reminder, as always, like the video, subscribe to the channel. As always, you can find us here on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, whether it be X, Twitter, Apple, Spotify. I am @ Jeff Willis on X. Tim is @ Tim Willis 24, and you can find our executive producer, Aldo Gandia. He is @ Barroom Network. And until next week, we'll see you guys. Like I said, another reminder, please email us at Willis Twin Towers Podcast, gmail.com, with anything you want us to get into in future episodes, and we'll be happy to do it for you. So until next week, we'll see you guys later. Bear down.
Yeah, Bears.
New and mightier foes will arise. New adventures will begin. And Goku and his fellow warriors will be ready. Until then, we bid you farewell.
The Willis Twin Towers Podcast is a Barroom Network production. Jeff and Tim Willis are the co-hosts and co-producers. Aldo Gandia is executive producer. Music is licensed from Pond 5. Any copyrighted material used was done under the Fair Use Doctrine for commentary, criticism, and informative purposes. All of our programming is available in audio-only format by subscribing to the Barroom Network wherever you download podcasts. Videos are archived on YouTube.